Hi, I'm Mark Krasinovich. I'm co-founder of Winternal Software and sysinternals.com, the freeware website where I host the utilities I've authored.
And I'm Dave Solomon. I'm the author of the book Windows Internals and its predecessor Inside Windows 2000 that I co-authored with Mark Krasinovich. And I teach Windows Internals and advanced troubleshooting classes.
The sysinternals video library explains how to use the key sysinternals tools to troubleshoot a wide variety of application and system-related problems.
For example, we cover how to leverage FileMon and RegMon to troubleshoot various application failures, also how to use Process Explorer to clearly understand all the system activity and even to identify and disinfect malware.
Other topics include Windows blue screen, crash dump, and hang analysis, boot troubleshooting, and understanding the way Windows uses memory and troubleshooting related issues such as memory leaks.
For more details and to place an order, just visit sysinternals.com.
We know that you'll find these videos as an invaluable companion to the freeware tools from sysinternals. Before we start looking at the various tools that are offered on sysinternals, I thought we'd start by first talking about where sysinternals came from, its purpose for existence. Back in 1996, Bryce Cogswell and I had freshly graduated from our PhD programs together, and we started to write tools for Windows NT. In fact, our first tool was one that we'll see a little bit later. It's one of the most popular tools still on the site. It was RegMon. That was back in 1996, and it started out as ntinternals.com. Within a couple months of launching the website, we'd had about 10 tools developed, and we posted it on the site. Word started to spread about it, and we had about 1,500 visitors a day. It was really a place where we could just do development of tools that would help us understand Windows, to help debug, and that we thought we'd share with other people. We started Winternals, by the way, about the same time, as a place where we would actually sell some of the software we felt might be just a little bit too valuable to give away for free. Now in the year 2006, sysinternals has roughly 75,000 to 80,000 visitors a day, even more if there's a special new release of some software or a special blog post. And there are about 100 different tools on the site. We're continuously revising tools, adding new tools. The site's a pretty dynamic place, as you'll see.
Now, Mark, what's the reason behind the site name change?
Well, actually, lawyers from a certain company in a certain northwestern state contacted us and told us that they weren't happy with our use of trademarked 2 letters in the name of the URL. So we decided to voluntarily pull down the site, relaunch it as sysinternals.com, which actually turned out to be good. This was back in 1997, before Windows 2000 had come out, before the NT name was dropped from the Windows operating system title. And so we were actually ahead of the wave in changing the name and distancing ourselves from NT.
Now, the name of the site, NT Internals, wasn't the only thing Microsoft didn't like about that site. In fact, our first connection was my awareness of the things that you were posting on that site that were offensive to Microsoft.
Right, and I don't feel proud about bringing this part up. Well, actually, it did serve a purpose at the time. I'd find bugs in Windows and write tools like NT Crash is one of the tools that I wrote that would bombard the system call interface with random garbage and end up finding a number of places in the kernel that didn't properly check for parameter legality and would end up crashing the system. So I thought, hey, I'm going to post about this, and rather than go through the proper official channels of submitting it to Microsoft and letting them address the problem. You have to remember, though, it was a different time. Security wasn't such a big issue. It was more of a reliability issue back then. So it wasn't like today where if somebody posted that, hackers would go take advantage of it and spread worms.
When you approached me to work on the 3rd edition of Inside Windows 2000, and I went to the Windows kernel team and said, there's this guy, Mark Krasinovich, they shuddered. However, I assured them that he had been reformed. In fact, I like to kid Mark that he's been assimilated by Microsoft, and to an extent that's true. I think you're definitely considered an insider, a good guy.
I regularly go to Microsoft with you, teach Windows internals classes. We go to dinner with key people on the Microsoft Windows team. Have a good relationship.
You've come a long way, Mark.
I've come a long way. Now, one of the things you should be aware of if you're using the sysinternals tools is the license that comes with them. We try not to put this in your face too much, but we recommend that you visit the licensing page at sysinternals. Some of the tools will pop up a EULA, which we're adopting over time. The tools are essentially free for you to download, whether it's for your use at home or within a corporate environment. But we ask that you not redistribute the tools, and that includes forms like copying them on CDs and giving them out or selling them or putting them even on a network share within your company and pointing the other users in your company at them or the other tech support people at those private versions stored cached locally. The reason for this is, well, actually there are a few reasons. One is that we want to make sure that people are exposed to the tools, know where they came from so that they can go back and see if they're new versions of the tools, so that they're exposed to the sysinternals website and the other tools that are available on the site and the other information available on the site. And another reason is that if somebody does want to redistribute the tools or use them in a technical support capacity to service other people's computers, that they do pay a license for the tools. We even license the source code, and the source code for many of the tools have been incorporated into commercial software. The license fees we generate off of that kind of licensing help justify the kinds of time and effort that Bryce and I spend on the tools. We earn our living primarily off of WinTernals. The stuff we do for sysinternals is on the side, so the money helps make the time we spend there worthwhile.
Now, you didn't mention my contribution to the sysinternals tools.
What contribution was that, Dave?
Well, I certainly use them a lot.
Right, and I consider you one of the best sysinternals evangelists.
That's
But
true.
one thing that I think you've gotten better about over time is not taking credit implicitly for the tools, right?
It's true that when I teach the Windows internals class, with or without Mark, people just by association assume that I've worked on the sysinternals tool. So I regularly get thanked for his tools at conferences like Microsoft TechEd. Just recently, I got an email from a software company that gave me a free license just because I had written a book with Mark.
So, like I said, you've gotten better, and I don't know if you're to the point where you actually come out and say during the talk that you didn't develop the tools. Like, did you tell those people that you didn't?
I haven't replied to that email yet, but
Okay.
I just feel by our close association that I virtually have worked on the tools. It just kind of feels that way now.
In fact, Dave, have you ever developed?
I have in a galaxy far, far away. I thought it would be good if we took just a moment to go to sysinternals.com. Of course, that website is evolving and changing all the time, but let's take a look at the homepage as it exists right now. So I'm going to switch over to the browser. Here's the homepage of sysinternals, and you can see that on the left there's some main groupings, the class of utilities, file, security, networking, and so forth. There's a link for the tools that have source code. Now, is source code available for all the tools, Mark?
No, source code's only available for a small handful of the tools. Some of the tools we feel the source provides an educational purpose. We used to actually release the source code to many more tools, and specifically and importantly, Regmon and FileMon, two of the hallmark tools of the site. But we withdrew the tools some years ago for a couple reasons. One, malware authors had used some of the techniques in the tools to develop rootkits, which has become a problem. For instance, Regmon uses a technique called system call hooking on certain Windows platforms, and that's become a popular rootkit technique. Another reason that we removed them is that the license agreement that was supplied with the source code said that if you wanted to incorporate into commercial software, you had to pay a licensing fee. We put in signatures in the source that if somebody reused the code and then shipped it in their commercial product, we could look for the signatures and recognize the fact that it was based originally on FileMon and Regmon. And it turns out more than a handful of commercial software out there we'd come across, find our signatures in it, and yet they'd never pay for a license. So
That's really
we were
disappointing.
really forced, because people were acting this way, to withdraw the source. And now if people want to get it, they have to come and pay for it.
Okay. The next link down is the link to information, and I know this is a very useful set of technical articles, some of which made their way into our book, but a number of them have some details, some esoteric information that Microsoft didn't want in our book, for example. So that information link is a good source for additional nuggets on Windows internals. Your blog, Mark.
Right, I started blogging in about March of 2005, and it's a technical blog. I'm not going to tell you what I did this weekend with my family. I'm going to talk about war stories that I've encountered myself and troubleshot myself with sysinternals tools or other Windows troubleshooting tools.